Rain poured like shattered glass from a bruised sky the night the world changed for 17-year-old Emily. Her torn backpack, soaked with mud and regret, clung to her shoulders as she ran aimlessly through the forest, away from everything she knew. Her abusive stepfather, her silent mother, and a house that had never felt like home. Every step was a rebellion, every breath a desperate plea for freedom. But fate had other plans that night, ones written not in ink or tears, but in the cold ripples of a dark lake. Before we dive deeper into this unbelievable true story of courage, redemption, and unexpected family, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of doing what's right, even when no one's watching. Emily had been walking for hours when the roar of motorcycle engines shattered the silence. It wasn't the friendly hum of travelers. It was deep, commanding, and full of power. She froze behind a tree, heart pounding. Through the curtain of rain, she saw them, a convoy of bikers in leather jackets emblazoned with skulls and wings, the infamous Hell's Angels. She had heard stories of loyalty, danger, and a bond deeper than blood. She thought about running, but before she could move, a piercing scream echoed from the lakeside road. A flash of light, then chaos. One of the motorcycles had lost control on the slippery curve, crashing into the guardrail before plunging into the lake below. The rider, a woman, vanished beneath the surface. The others skidded to a stop, shouting her name, but none dared to dive into the black water. Panic spread like wildfire, and Emily felt it too, that tightening fear in her chest. But something stronger than fear took over. Instinct. Without thinking, she dropped her bag, kicked off her boots, and ran toward the lake. The bikers yelled for her to stop, but she didn't listen. The cold water bit into her skin as she dove in, searching through the murk and darkness. Her lungs screamed for air. Her vision blurred, but she refused to surface. Not yet. Not until she found her. Seconds turned into minutes. 2, 4, 6. The world above blurred into a distant roar of sirens and engines. Finally, at nearly 9 minutes, 9 agonizing minutes, she saw her. The woman's leather jacket shimmered faintly in the water's reflection. Emily grabbed her, pulling her upward with the last of her strength. They broke through the surface, both gasping for air that tasted like salvation. The bikers rushed to help, dragging them onto the muddy shore as flashing red and blue lights lit up the night. Emily knelt beside the woman, her trembling hands pressing on her chest, counting compressions, whispering, "Please breathe. Please breathe." Water poured from the woman's lungs, and for a terrifying moment, she didn't move. Then, a cough. A faint, broken sound, but enough to make Emily sob in relief. The paramedics arrived seconds later, taking over the scene. When Emily finally looked up, she saw them. The bikers, the men she had feared. They stood silently, their rough faces soft with something she didn't expect, respect. One of them, a towering man with a heavy beard and tear-streaked cheeks, looked at her like she was something out of a miracle. "That's my wife," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You saved my wife." The hospital lights hummed low that night as Emily sat in the waiting room, wrapped in a blanket. She expected to be ignored, maybe questioned, or even told to leave. But instead, one of the bikers, the same man whose wife she had saved, approached her. He introduced himself as Bear, president of the local Hells Angels chapter. In his eyes was a storm of gratitude. He didn't say much, just put a heavy hand on her shoulder and said, "You're family now." Emily didn't understand what he meant at first. She was just a runaway, a girl with no home, no name worth remembering. But the days that followed changed everything. When Bear's wife, Jenna, woke up, the first person she asked for wasn't her husband. It was Emily, the girl who wouldn't give up on her when everyone else froze, the girl who dove into darkness for a stranger. They took her in, not out of pity but out of promise. The clubhouse became her home. The roar of engines became her lullaby. She learned that family wasn't always blood. Sometimes it was forged in the fires of survival. The bikers, men who had seen war and loss, treated her like a little sister. They fixed her a room, gave her a job cleaning the garage, and taught her how to ride. Bear even had a small leather vest made for her, embroidered with 3 simple words, AFFA, angels, forever, forever angels. But Emily's story wasn't just about being saved. It was about learning that strength wasn't measured by size or by scars, but by the moments you refused to surrender. She carried her past quietly, never speaking much about the home she ran from. But Jenna saw through it. One night, as they watched the sunset from the back of a Harley, Jenna told her, "Sometimes, the family we find saves us from the one we were born into." Emily didn't respond, but the tears in her eyes said enough. Over time, Emily grew into her new life. She worked hard, studied through community programs the angels helped her enroll in, and even started volunteering at rescue training courses. Reporters tried to interview her about the runaway girl who saved the Hells Angels' wife, but she never sought attention. She didn't see herself as a hero, just someone who did what needed to be done. Years later, she would ride beside them, not behind but beside, her own bike roaring through the wind, leather vest gleaming with pride. Every time she looked at the AFFA patch, she remembered that night. The rain, the cold, the silence that almost became permanent, and she remembered the moment it all changed. To this day, every new prospect in the club hears her story, not as a legend, but as a reminder. That courage doesn't wear leather or carry a patch. Sometimes it just wears a torn t-shirt and refuses to give up. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep bringing you real, emotional stories about courage, redemption, and the power of humanity. And before you go, comment below one thing. Would you dive into the dark if it meant saving a stranger's life? Because Emily did. And it changed everything.